Hey YouTube, it's Steve from Tower Genius. And I get this question a lot. What are cell tower lease rates in Florida? I am a Florida resident, so I know a little bit about the topic. And people do wonder, hey, Steve, what are cell towers worth? What's the average price of a cell tower lease offer on a new cell tower? Or maybe you live in one of those rooftop high-rise beach resort condos. So you're wondering, what's my AT&T lease worth if we renew it? What is the Verizon lease worth? What's the T-Mobile lease worth? Well, let's talk about cell tower lease rates here in Florida. Let's talk about what cell tower lease rates are, values here in Florida. We do get that a lot. And I'm located in the Florida Panhandle, the Emerald Coast, aka Southern Alabama. It's less populated part of the state here, but that really doesn't matter too much. The values again are determined on a site-by-site basis. So I can tell you that even this past week, we came across a proposal that rolled across my desk here, in the northwestern Florida Panhandle. Saw a property owner get offered a very low ball offer of $40,000 for a one-time payment with a major tower company site acquisition representative. Basically, they were looking to buy him out of the lease from day one, and offered pretty much an extremely low ball offer. And the problem is that what happens if it's not normal. There's some people that do it that way. It's kind of rare. But what happens if the owner decides not to do the deal? I mean, I would encumber my property for $40,000 for the lifetime with a cell tower. It's nuts. I wouldn't do it. But maybe they have a neighbor. Maybe they have a couple neighbors that that need the money or that don't care. That will take that money and buy something with it or do whatever they want to do with it or buy another property. Someone will take that money, and it's we're in interesting economic times right now. So even if that site was worth $1,000 a month, even if it was worth $500 a month, if someone takes the money up front, there's really not much you can do, because these site acquisition consultants, especially the ones that are heavily incentivized to get a commission to get the best deal possible for their client, who is XYZ carrier or tower company. So there's really not much you can do to protect yourself against that. So they will look for the path of least resistance, and as long as it meets zoning requirements, it's in their search ring. If they can find somebody willing to cut their own throat for $40,000 a one-time payment, that's what they'll do, or maybe even 50 or 100. So at the end of the day, and I do this over and over and over, cell tower lease rates, cell phone tower lease rates, rooftop cell site lease rates, everything in this business is determined by a site, on a site-by-site basis. And one, is it a carrier? So is this a direct dish wireless lease on a high-rise condo in Pensacola Beach, Florida, or is it on a high-rise in Panama City, for example, where they have a lot more high-rise rooftops to choose from? So they're not going to get as good a price. Maybe they're going to get $2,000 or $3,000 a month. Maybe they're only going to get $1,500. So it really depends on a location by location basis. Is it out on a barrier island where maybe there only is one or two other competing sites? Maybe they're spread apart where they're a mile or two apart. So everything has to be looked at. The zoning needs to be looked at. The surrounding towers need to be looked at. Also, you could have a Crown Castle cell tower with AT&T and T-Mobile on it, and half a mile away you could have an American Tower site with Verizon on it. Those guys are competing against those companies are competitors. So we have to analyze that and figure it out. So on average, if a tower developer is anywhere in Florida, if they're in like Ocala, anywhere up there in north central Florida, in a more rural area, they're going to be offering property owners $500 a month, $600 a month. When you see an offer that is maybe above $1,000, maybe you see a $1,500 or $2,000 offer from a developer, you can be sure that the reason they're offering that much money is because they have two carriers in their pocket, willing, ready to go on there. And the problem is we don't know who the carriers are. I guess it's probably like AT&T and Dish, but we've seen a lot of that going on recently. Those are the active carriers, but Verizon is constantly building all the time, and or you have a better chance of getting a fair deal if you've already had a tower on your property for 15 or 20 years and they come back to renew it, because the chances of that tower being decommissioned are very slim. Unless it's a single carrier Sprint site that T-Mobile doesn't need, and they're not going to assign it over, or basically T-Mobile's not going to upgrade it, or if it's one of those sites that maybe you had two carriers, maybe you had T-Mobile and Sprint on it, one of those poor souls that had some consolidation that's going on right now. There is a good chance that you're going to see Dish Wireless hop on there in the next couple of years. They're very aggressively co-locating on existing towers in Florida and in other places. So, if you're in a I did a video on this recently. If you were in a beach community, which a lot of people in Florida are, if you're on the water in a high rise with a carrier, those values can vary. And I've seen leases north of $6,000-7,000 per month on mature sites that were maybe escalating. Maybe they started off at like $2,500, $3,500 a month or more, escalating at 4% a year or 3.5% a year, which a mature site will get up there. Clearly, the carriers are going to be fighting to reduce the rent there, and there is a risk. Now, again, I don't know how. I'm not Kreskin. I can't see into the future, but I have a pretty good idea. A lot of small cells are coming. A lot of 5G sites are coming. So if you are in a high-rise in Florida on the ocean, is it out on a barrier island? Is it out on Siesta Key or somewhere like that, where they're not going to put a tower up because they're just not going to? So you have a lower risk of cell sites with 5G, 5G small cell nodes. They sprinkle these things out all over the place. They put up a few dozen in that area. They could come back potentially. Like, let's say if you have an AT&T site that's really, let's say it's paying between $4,000 and $7,000 a month. It's on above market, and you're in an area that they put in 50 AT&T small cells, which maybe in Miami Beach or something like that, and you have some other places where they could potentially go. Yeah, you might have to give a rent reduction. Now, AT&T doesn't really have a budget to move that cell site, across the street, down on South Beach or whatever. They don't want to do that, but it's expensive. But at some point, especially in these densely populated urban areas like Miami, like Brooklyn, like the Bronx, like Queens, like parts of Los Angeles, Chicago, where there could be a real critical mass of these 5G nodes deployed, you are going to see eventually, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see that impact cell site values. So and let's focus on Florida here. If you're down like Miami, that's really where the densely populated urban population is in the state, the most densely populated. So if you have a rooftop cell site, you need to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to just keep writing out the rent, which is a great thing, and it keeps your common charges down or whatever? You can do that. At some point, the trade-off is if you sell that cell site off, you do a buyout, you do lose control of what happens up there. You get rain, you get a hurricane coming through. A lot of these buyout companies, they're taking these things, they're packaging them, selling them off to a hedge fund. So by the time you figure out who's going to patch the hole in your roof, you get a response from someone. You could be $100,000 in debt to the contractor that had to fix the hole. Anyway, so there are pros and cons of selling these rooftop cell site easements, and the benefit is, hey, if you can reduce the risk. What if this thing goes away in 10 years and you have a 25-year lease and you don't think it's going to be around? You want to sleep better at night, then you sell it. But then you also have to make sure that the language protects you in case something goes bump in the night on that cell site. On the flip side, you hold on to the rent and you just ride it out for as long as you can and get as much money as you can for the lifetime duration of that cell site. So those are two things to look at. So we are experts in this field. We help hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of actually over 2,000 cell site landlords. We are based here in Florida. We do understand what these things are worth. We provide coaching, consulting services for property owners and landlords who have a cell tower or who have already been approached to get one on their property and they're trying to figure out what to do. So if you're in Florida, give me a holler here, 888-313-9750. My name is Steve. I'm one of the owners of Tower Genius, and we do provide coaching and consulting services, help make sense of these often confusing cell site contracts, proposals, and offers. Catch you later.